What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers. Postgame therapy, postgame extensive therapy. A disgusting, embarrassing, ugly 10-9 loss to Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos at home in the rain at MetLife Stadium. CR and I are going to get it off our chest because we're feeling what a lot of you guys are feeling right now in what was just a gut punch, ugly day. CR, how you doing? How you feeling?
I mean, better days than this one, right? Wow. What are we sipping on there, by the way? Is that a post-game drown your sorrows beer?
Yeah, it's a post-game sip of sunshine. I'm still enjoying my Badlands pint glass.
That's what I had this weekend. One of the top 10 beer for me, easily.
It's a good
sunshine.
One. We need something that packed a punch after that. After sitting through that game.
Yeah, you do. I drank quite a few of those when the Mets were losing every game to the Brewers, and then to balance out New York sports, the Mets won when the Jets somehow lost as 8-point favorites to the Broncos. So, how am I doing? Man, I've gone through it with this one. It was one of those not in the moment on like the field goal. Because I felt like they never deserved to win this game. And you and I were joking, or not joking, but just talking off air how, make the field goal or not. It just felt like the Giants game from last year. But you do have this, there is something in football it's easier to try to convince yourself of cleaning up what's wrong after wins than losses. And Tennessee felt like that, right? Yep. Tennessee we kind of forget how bad that first half was. But they won, and we felt like they can clean up some things. And to be fair, they cleaned up a lot of the things on Thursday night when they kicked the crap out of New England, who has this weird balance of they weren't as good as people thought after their first two games, but they're not as bad as they played against the Jets that night. So what were we going to get? How are they going to handle winning? And the Jets, man, they really stunk it up today in a weird game where Bo Nix was on track for a historically bad performance through the air.
He threw for 60 yards.
He threw for 60 yards total, but at half, what do you have? -7.
Yeah.
You have, I thought, surprisingly bad weather. Unless I'm just an idiot, I didn't hear anything like that. I knew it'd be cloudy this weekend. I knew it'd be scattered showers, but usually when it's going to be really rainy going into a game, all everyone talks about, because it affects gambling, it affects props, it affects the talking points going into the game. It looked miserable out there. Like, Bo Nix literally couldn't throw the ball. Rodgers was more 50-50, which is saying a lot. That happened, and I'm not making any excuses. We're going to get into how bad things were for the Jets today. But they were gift-wrapped, an emergency lever at the end of the game. And Greg the Leg, who I call kickers relievers all the time, and Greg the Leg is more than due for a bad season, has looked bad this year. Like, the kicks he made today, you had to look at each other like, did that go in?
Yeah, they snuck in all of them.
So, and what pissed me off the most about that was, and I know Rodgers said in the postgame, like, he missed a check at the end of the game that he wished he could have back. They were kind of playing like they just needed a 50-plus yard field goal. And I'm looking around like, you have a lot of time right now. Yes. And you're just, there was miscommunications. Nobody's looking for the ball. I'm like, what the fuck is going on out here? And then they had the red line on the TV, and it's like, oh, if they get here, it's his range, it'll be fine. It's soaking wet. He's looked bad on all the kicks he's made already. Will Lutz, who's good, last time I checked, just missed the same kick the other side. And it was like, we did it. We're going to get out of this one, even though we had 13 penalties. 13 penalties. We couldn't score a touchdown all day. Our defense had, and I know it's expectations to have the defense be perfect, but honestly, against Bo Nix in that offense, I kind of do. Horrible miscommunication on the touchdown. Special teams was a disaster today. Yep. So, yeah, this game sucked. And you know what? When you don't have a good coaching staff, but you have a good roster, you lose surprise games. These are the games that you thought you had, and all of a sudden you get punched in the gut because you didn't come out prepared, you played sloppy, things didn't go your way a couple times, and you lost. And the reality is with the Jets right now, until it's not, that they'll surprise us a few times this year in good ways, and they'll surprise us a few times this year like this in bad ways. And that's a team that is going to win between 8 to 10 games. And the problem is when you're a team projected to win 8 to 10 games, 1 or 2 bad bounces can have you out of the playoffs. And I think that's why every Jet fan is really pissed right now.
Yeah. I mean, this was, especially when you look at the upcoming 3 games, a game they had to have and a game that was there for the taking. And there was just so much to work through here. I think what really stuck with me the most from this game were 2 things. And we're going to use all of War Room for this, the continued disappointment of Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. We now have a big enough sample size this season. We're 4 games in. These guys are not playing to the level that the Jets need them to. Their offense is not deep enough and not good enough for Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson to be average starters. They need to be great players who are getting better and becoming superstars in year 3 for the Jets to be what we thought they would be this year. Breece Hall is not the best running back on this team right now. Braylon Allen is. The offense looks better when Braylon Allen is out there. He's more north and south. They would have just handed it to Braylon Allen those last 2 plays. They're probably kicking a 40-yard field goal and probably win the game. How Braylon Allen does not get short yardage handoffs or goal line handoffs at this point is absolutely beyond me. But Breece Hall looked disinterested, had multiple penalties, which is an embarrassment for a running back, dropped multiple passes. I think he had more combined penalties and drops than yards. And Garrett Wilson, he had a couple okay moments. He got a little bit of a break on that catch because he was out of bounds. Glad the Jets finally got a call. But he is just not a number 1 receiver in the way we need him to be right now. And part of why we're banging the table for Devontae Adams is the Jets need a real number 1 receiver. And Garrett just is not that guy yet. He is 4 catches for 40 yards and 1 touchdown every 6 games. And that's who he's been so far. And he is not on the same page with Aaron Rodgers. He was not on the same page when it matters the most. When the Jets need it, they're going to Allen Lazard and Mike Williams. Through 4 games, Allen Lazard has been the Jets' best and most consistent receiver, and I'm not really sure it's close. And Mike Williams, every time he gets a chance, makes a play. He should be getting more chances. We talked about this all summer. We talked about it after the Titans game. How in God's name, in an all-in season, you're throwing back shoulder fades to Xavier Gibson with the game on the line? That's embarrassing. That's on Joe Douglas for not doing enough with the roster. Certainly the coaching was ludicrously terrible today. This game was lost on 3 short yardage decisions. 3rd and goal, after a 10-minute delay because of a scary injury, calling a play-action pass to Solomon fucking Thomas instead of giving the ball to Braylon Allen. And then 4th down and goal, when they were going to go for it, which they should have, having a penalty and then having to settle for a field goal. It should have been 2nd, 3rd, and 4th down, Braylon Allen. 100% they score a touchdown. 4th quarter, when they're driving for the go-ahead touchdown, 3rd and 1 on the opposite side of the 50. They're in shotgun running Garrett Wilson in motion. Aaron Rodgers gets strip sacked. They also got a break on that because that was a strip sack and he got hurt. Give the ball to Braylon Allen, get a 1st down, run the clock out, and win 17-10 and get the hell out of there.
Right.
Bad offensive coordinator, bad play calling. And I don't want to completely absolve Rodgers because he was not good today. He missed throws. He just was not on it the way he was in the Pats game. He made some plays. He was not the biggest problem. The offensive line was bad. Not Tyron Smith in particular had an ugly game. But man, that's what really stuck out to me before we even start getting into the collection of penalties that this team gets every week. I've just never seen like an edge rusher line up offsides multiple times in one game. I've never seen a running back false start multiple times in one game. I've never seen the same gunner get a personal foul every single week.
Got to have him on the roster. Just got to hold a fucking roster spot for him.
It's unbelievable. And all this happened, and they still could have won if they just would have like moved the ball up 7 more yards and made a 43-yard field goal and got the hell out of there. This is one of those games that, God willing, that there's going to be a time this year the Jets are like 7-7, and we're talking about them battling for a wild card spot, and this game is going to kill them with a ridiculous conference loss. Well, so we got to get all that off their chest. But I'm about a loss.
I mean, me too. What this does is now you gotta win one you weren't supposed to, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is with the Jets, and this was a hard combo to have in July and August, but now we could have real combos with the Jets because the proof is in the pudding. A lot of people didn't want to entertain that the Jets weren't the lock favorite for the division, or that the Jets can't win 13 games. And like, the reality is the Jets had more problems than some people wanted to believe. And the other reality is the Jets were better than the low hanging fruit morons, same old Jets wanted to admit. It was somewhere in the middle, which is often how sports evaluations go, because you just have like there's so wide range on the spectrum of people evaluating, and both sides are usually irrational, right? So not to sit on a high horse here, I don't mean to come off like that, but just trying to bring some rationale, which I think is the whole purpose of you and I creating Badlands in the first place, honestly. So now you should have beat the Broncos. Yeah, you should have beat the Broncos. Now you got to win a game that maybe you weren't supposed to, whether that, like, you still look at the Jets schedule. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, they're going to win all these, because they're not. But it's, you don't look at the Jets schedule and go, how the hell are they going to get through this? You know how you turn the tide? Honestly, you beat Minnesota in London, because Minnesota looks like the best, crazy to say, the best team in the NFL right now. And then you have a division matchup with the Bills on Monday night that can go it can go either way. The Jets always play the Bills tough and vice versa. But then Steelers, Pats, okay, Texans are good. Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, like all these teams are going to be competitive like Denver was today. But you're not looking at it and going, I just don't see how we stack up against them. So now you got to kind of want a surprise win somewhere. But back to the whole talking point in general, the whole purpose of this is that the Jets are just in a very weird place right now where they're guys, like their main guys, Brees and Garrett, that are supposed to single-handedly win them games, are not capable of doing that right now. They're not. It's just have a conversation, an honest conversation. They're not. Maybe they will down the stretch. And the problem I have with Garrett is we're doing the whole, he's gone through a gauntlet of corners, and he gets a lot of attention. But at some point, Garrett Wilson needs to be good enough where it doesn't always matter. And it felt like today, I think Surtain's the best corner in football. I thought today was going to be a really tough day for Garrett. I was staying away from his props and all of that. But at the end of the day, now it's going to be time for Garrett to go help them upset Minnesota or upset Buffalo, who he's played well against Buffalo before. So, and the corner stretch for him gets a little easier. The reality, though, with the Jets is right now, they have to have a moment with themselves that, what are we most efficient at? And to me, one of the things the Jets offense is most efficient at is handing the ball to Braylon Allen and him running north and south. It's not that difficult sometimes. It's not. And I saw this throughout the game change a little, but not enough. It feels like they have a little bit of a fear of how Brees might digest that identity change. I've kind of come to the point where Brees needs to be heavily involved in the passing game. And Rodgers missed a throw to him today up the sideline, but not a lot of screens. Like, where are the screens to Brees Hall? And Rodgers said, we got to get him in space. So why are you most efficient when Braylon Allen is running the ball? Is it because your offensive line is more comfortable with the concepts that you run with Braylon and not Brees? Is it because Braylon at 20 years old is almost just not overthinking at all because he's so new to this league that he's like, I've always been the biggest kid on the field my whole life. I'm going to put my foot in the ground and run through someone's face and fall forward for 5 to 10 yards every run. Sometimes that innocence can be a benefit to you. And the Jets seem afraid. They got so cute, or not, almost not cute, but it's like Solomon Thomas is not a great fullback, right? They keep doing this thing where they bring him in. So they tried to just smash the ball with Brees, and it didn't work. All right, there's things to nitpick about that whole execution, but I feel like the Jets thought they could just be bigger and stronger, and it went 0 for 2. I think at some point they just need to fall back on things that work for them right now while they're still trying to figure out the rest. And the honest combo with the Jets is right now, they're trying to figure out how to get their number one wide receiver going, how to get their big play running back going, and the supplement things that are supposed to aid those, throwing to Lazard, throwing to Mike Williams, and handing the ball to Braylon Allen, maybe need to be elevated a little bit. Maybe aren't the supplementary things at the moment right now while the other guys are figuring it out. So, and then the pendulum will swing the other way because that's how this game works. So I think that this was always my fear before the season. When adversity hits the Jets, right? The old, because they talked like this last year, and it was always a fear of mine. Well, when Rodgers is back, when Rodgers is back, when Rodgers is back, it's a dangerous way to live when everybody in the room is looking to one thing to fix everything. And the problem is today, the weather was awful for at least the first half. Rodgers was up and down. Today, I don't think he was bad. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Rodgers didn't look the same." There's a lot more issues than him. The protection wasn't good against the highest blitz rate team in the league. And Hackett didn't have anything in his pocket to go to. He didn't have anything in his pocket. And in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes has bad days. Josh Allen has bad days. These guys have bad days. And what do they do to win or compete in a game when they have bad days? The play caller finds something to aid them. And the Jets coaching staff cannot aid their players when they're having a bad or even a mediocre day. And until they show that they can, there's no reason to believe it. 13 penalties, no answers on offense. They don't coach in the flow of the game. It goes back to my whole rant. Why were you playing for a 50-yard field goal at the end? That's not good enough. It's almost, you need to look at the odds and go, honestly, in this game, a 50-yard field goal probably doesn't have the odds we want. We need to play more aggressively for maybe a 40-yard field goal today. So, yeah, I mean, we're pissed today. And I don't think it's not the end. The Jets are 2-2. The schedule is not exactly hell throughout. They still have Aaron Rodgers. But this is the difference with the Jets, why they're an 8-10 win team instead of the 13 win team that they have enough talent to be versus this schedule. But the coaching's not good enough. And I said, I didn't think Salah's answer cut it today when he said we got to figure it out. And I want people to know I'm not mad at the answer because I don't care what people really say in press conferences too often. I say it doesn't cut it because he's the one big sample size we have right now. Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, the odds are they're probably going to figure this out. Breece Hall breaking off some big runs, good chance he does. The defense eventually creating some more bigger plays and having better days, probably a good chance they do too. The thing that I'll tell you that probably won't get better is this team comes out flat. They come out and they're undisciplined, and the coaching staff doesn't have any fucking answers because they haven't for multiple years now. So until that changes, you shouldn't believe them that they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, we have a 55-game sample size of Robert Saleh. He's 20 and 35.
Yeah, and Joe Douglas's roster.
87-game sample size of Joe Douglas's roster at 29 and 58. So we know what they are, and we know what their shortcomings are. And look, Saleh's had, over the last 2 years, not really in his first year, they've had sort of like weird, surprising, sporadic wins mixed in with horrific losses. So they had the Eagles win last year. A couple of years ago, they beat the Packers and the Steelers. We didn't necessarily expect them to. They beat the Texans last year.
They always split with the Bills.
They always split with
for
the
whatever
Bills.
reason.
So before I get back into ripping and ranting, I will say you're right about the schedule and you're right about the trajectory of the conference. They're 2-2 through their first four. I look at their next four: Minnesota, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, who lost today to Joe Flacco, and New England, who got killed by the Niners, as you'd expect. Go 2-2 again. And can you be 4-4? And then you look at your last three games before the bye week. You have Houston at home, who you played well against last year, almost lost to Jacksonville today. You have Arizona, who lost by 30 today to Washington. And you have the Colts, who have been up and down. So can you be a 6-5 team still? Is there still a road to being 6-5 if you don't let this thing slip away from you the next 3 weeks? And this is a dangerous stretch. This was the stretch they had last year coming out of the Giants win, where they were back-to-back primetime against the Chargers and Raiders. They lost them both. They lost to Buffalo, and the season was over. They cannot lose the next three games. You don't want to get to 2-5 because there's too much expectations around this year. That's a dangerous spot to be. You need to win one of the next three, and that's not asking a lot. Can you get going into that New England game at least at 3-4? And maybe they surprise us and do better. What scares me about Minnesota is the coaching mismatch. They're the best all-around team in football so far through 4 games. But Flores' defense against Hackett, scary. O'Connell versus Saleh, scary. It's a London game. London games are weird. I don't think the Vikings are a 15-2 team. They're due for a letdown performance. At some point, they almost blew a 28-0 lead today. They're certainly better than the Jets. They're 2.5-point favorites. The Jets are going to be expected to lose that game. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if they won. We have all week to talk about that. I think in the vacuum of today, the mentality of just shaking out of this sort of like general loser mentality the last